Practical Anarchy, A Guide to Self-Determination. Dickie Dredd. Acknowledgements. For proofreading and writing an excellent introduction, the wonderful Mark Sleigh. And if you want a humorous look at anarchy in action, get hold of his hilarious fiction books. For proofreading from a US perspective, the lovely chap that is Matt Novak. For the wonderful drawings, Nigel Adams. For coming up with the title of the book, I of course had a slightly different title in mind involving swearing, Zoe Paynton. For inspiration, feedback and engaging debates, and in no particular order, Nigel Adams, Pox, Dan Wilson, Erica Rose, Patrick Baird Paddy, Stu Shotness, Jay Swales, Martin, Adam Thompson, Robin Sherwood, Russell the Captain, The Wandering Eye, Zoe and Ratty, Tom Davidson, Celtic Steve, Eon, Nick Hunt, Peter de Groot, Keon my stepson, and many other folk that have heard me harking on about these issues in pubs, festivals, sites and elsewhere. Oh, and AI comes out with some utter bollocks on these subjects most of the time, but good for proofreading and supplying references. Dedication. This book is dedicated to Nigel Adams, Nig. I've known you for more than 40 years, and from the start you were a walking, talking inspiration. Your bedroom back then was like a punk cathedral. Slogans scrawled on every surface, images pasted together into raw manifestos that hit harder than any textbook. You were the one who shoved Feeding of the 5,000 into my hands, and I'll never forget staring at that sleeve in awe, while you explained the lyrics line by line, making sense of a world that didn't. Your art has always been fierce, unflinching, alive. Punk not just in style but in spirit. And your critiques of anarchy and politics, even when they cut sharp, have always been some of the best I've ever heard. We did fall out for about a year in our teens, though I can't even remember what over, probably something daft, but even that just proves the strength of it all. 40 years on, still mates, still arguing, still laughing. We both carried scars from childhood trauma, and we both went through the madness of addiction. Somehow we clawed our way through, each in our own messy fashion, and I like to think we came out with more honesty, if not always more answers. Survival itself is a kind of rebellion, and we both lived that truth. You put me in my first punk band, Premenstrual Tension, and threw me out again for not looking punk enough. Fair enough. Without you, I might never have found my way into all of this. So here's to you, Nig, for showing me punk, for showing me anarchy, for showing me how to stare the world in the face, even when it stares back ugly. And there's a picture of Nig when he was about 13 in his bedroom. Introduction to the author. Always a bit odd reading these about yourself, but there you go. Dickie Dredd is no stranger to living the ideas he writes about. Under his academic name, Richard Leach, he published textbooks in physics and measurement theory, though he often jokes that the only things he ever measured with true precision were the joint skins and speaker distances at late-night raves. A professor of physics by trade, he admits he chose measurement theory because the rest of his life was too unpredictable to calibrate. What he has measured most carefully, though, is freedom, in theory and in practice. From spinning ska and reggae in muddy festival fields to wiring up solar panels on caravans held together with gaffer tape, he's lived the experiments in autonomy, solidarity and survival that run through practical anarchy. His festival prowess once stretched to keeping a sound system going for 3 days straight, though he admits the mystical stamina was more down to dodgy instant coffee than cosmic alignment, or maybe something else. Friends still tell stories of him DJing in the rain while trying to hold up a tarp with one hand and a split with the other. His work spans how-to guides for New Age travellers, cultural histories of resistance, raw autobiographical writing on trauma and recovery, and now a sweeping account of why money, the state and religion hold us back from freer ways of living. He's also been accused of being too kind for an anarchist, the sort who'd stop mid-rant about capitalism to offer you the stew and a blanket. Meditation and philosophy, especially time spent at New Buddha Way with Professor Hunt, shaped his thinking alongside years of fieldwork, squat protest camps and improvised kitchens, where he learnt that lentils can in fact be stretched into 3 meals if you're inventive enough. His writing cuts across science, politics and lived experience, always fueled by baselines, bonfires and the sort of gallows humour that keeps communities going when the police turn up, shut the party down. Dickie Dredd's mission is to dig beneath the systems we take for granted and to show that alternatives are not utopias but lived possibilities. Practical anarchy is his call to take those glimpses of another world seriously, to turn them into reality. He still insists that laughter Bad jokes and occasional chaos are essential tools in the revolution. After all, if you can't dance, or at least laugh at your mate falling over a guy rope, it probably isn't his kind of anarchy. Introduction by Mark Sleigh, who also did the proofreading. In general, it's fair to say that anarchism has a bad rep. When Yeats said, "Things fall apart, the centre cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world," he didn't mean it in a good way. In his famous poem, Anarchy is a rough beast. But he was right in as much as things do fall apart. Many things that once seemed permanent and immutable, like the Roman Empire, feudalism and slavery, all cease to be, although few people alive at those times would have imagined the possibility. It's conceivable that we, in the modern era, despite our ability to access information, are not wiser than our forebears, that our imaginations are just as tightly constrained by societal horizons as theirs were. Most of us still believe that the way things are is the best way. But things, they fall apart. Do the pub test that Dickey sometimes refers to in these pages, and ask someone how the current system is working out for them. Ask them about their job, or the environment, or how they think the future will pan out. Maybe, depending on who you ask and where the pub is, they won't have too many grumbles. But now ask the same question in a Rio favela, or a cobalt mine in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or a food queue in Gaza, or an American prison, or a Chinese factory. Ask any randomly selected human being on the planet, listen to their reply, then ask yourself how well the global politico-economic system is really performing. Maybe we owe it to ourselves, to each other, and to future generations to examine other possibilities. What, for example, if mere anarchy were to be loosed upon the world? After all, anarchism so far has been responsible for precisely zero genocides, famines, wars, pogroms, or massacres. The biggest fear around anarchism seems to be that those who are the most greedy, violent, and uncaring will set themselves up in authority. To which the obvious response is, that's not anarchism. In fact, it's pretty much the way things have been for the past few thousand years. If your worst nightmare is that we end up back where we started, might it not be worth dreaming of a society where people are not valued for being greedy, violent, and uncaring in the first place, but rather for being free, creative, and kind? How would that world look, and how could it come about? These are the questions that Dickey tries to answer. His approach is thoughtful, measured, and inventive, and he draws on other thinkers, extrapolates from past and contemporary examples, and touches on his personal experience to imagine a world with rules but without rulers. A place where we start from the premise that no baby is born evil, and where people either seek neither to be governed nor to govern others. A planet where in the words of H.G. Wells, people begotten of our wills and the substance of our bodies will stand upon the earth as one stands upon a footstool, and laugh and reach out their hands amidst the stars.